Stand here with me for a second. Right there at the end of your driveway, turn around and look back at your house the way I do. Because the plants you are about to buy this weekend, they are either about to make this place look like money or make it look like you are 2 payments behind. Here is the truth nobody tells you. The verdict on your home gets decided in about 7 seconds before anyone knocks, before a word is spoken. And most of that verdict comes from the green stuff in your beds. I have spent decades quoting jobs in front yards, standing next to buyers and appraisers, and I have watched the judgment land on their faces before they ever open the car door. I once watched a couple pull up to a listing, sit in the driveway for maybe 10 seconds, and drive off without unbuckling. The house was gorgeous inside, they never saw it, the plants out front told them a story, and they believed it. So stick with me to the last stop, because there is one detail about how you buy and place plants that decides the entire verdict, and it has nothing to do with how much you spend. Whether you are selling this spring or staying for the next 20 years, this is going to change how you shop the second you walk into that garden center. Let me start where every set of eyes starts. Right at the front of the house, where the plants meet the wall. Look at your foundation. That row of shrubs hugging the base of your home. I want you to really see them, because you stopped seeing them years ago, and that is exactly the problem. When did you plant those? If the answer is more than about 8 years and you have not touched them, I already know what a buyer sees. They see shrubs that have climbed halfway up the windows, they see green swallowing the bottom of the house, and their brain, without permission, whispers a single word: neglect. Here is what most homeowners get wrong, and I got it wrong myself on my own first house. You think overgrown plants read as lush, as established, as mature landscaping, which everybody says they want, but there is a razor line between mature and overgrown, and buyers feel it instantly even when they cannot name it. Mature means the plant is the right size for its spot, and it got there over time. Overgrown means the plant has outgrown its spot and nobody cared enough to stop it. And when a shrub creeps up over the windowsill, it does something worse than look messy. It blocks light from getting into the house. So the buyer walks inside and the front rooms feel dark. And they do not think the shrubs are too tall. They think this house feels gloomy, and they knock money off in their head. You lost value at the curb and again in the living room from the same plant. So what do? You do not rip everything out. That is the panic move that costs thousands. You prune hard, or better, you replace those monster foundation shrubs with plants that stay small on purpose, dwarf varieties. Something bred to top out at 3 feet and never fight you again. A flat of those runs you maybe $15 to $40 a plant, and a weekend of your time. That single change can take 10 years off how old your house reads from the street. But here is the thing that should make you nervous. Even if your foundation is perfect, the eye does not stop there. It keeps moving, and the next place it lands is where I see people waste the most money of all. Walk with me a few steps toward the beds. The open planting beds out in the yard, along the walk, wherever you have got bare dirt and something growing out of it. I want to ask you something a garden center will never ask you. Did you buy those plants because they belong here, or because they looked pretty in the plastic pot that day? Because I can usually tell, and so can a buyer, even if they have never gardened a day in their life. Here is the quiet disaster I see constantly. Somebody falls in love with a plant under the misting sprayers at the store. It is blooming, it is perfect, they load 3 of them in the cart, they get it home, put it in the ground, and it starts dying by August. Not dead, just tired. Yellow at the edges, thin, half the leaves gone, and the homeowner keeps it because they spent good money and they are hoping it turns around. It does not turn around. And a struggling plant is worse than no plant at all. Bare mulch reads as a fresh start. A sick, half-dead plant reads as a graveyard. It tells the buyer that things go to die at your house, that you spend money and cannot keep it alive. And whether it is fair or not, They start wondering what else in this house is quietly failing. The reason this happens is that most plants are sold to you with no honest conversation about whether they will survive where you live. Your region has a climate zone. Your specific bed has a light situation, full sun, part shade, deep shade. The plant needs to match both. When it does not, you are pouring money into a slow funeral. And the cost adds up faster than you think. Industry surveys put it plainly. A huge share of the plants homeowners buy each year die within the first 12 months, and most of those deaths are not bad luck. They are the wrong plant in the wrong spot. Every one of those is money you buried in your own yard. If you spend $300 at the garden center and half of it is dead by fall, you did not landscape. You donated. So before you buy a single thing this season, learn 2 words: your climate zone and the light your bed actually gets. Then buy only what fits both. It is free to know, and it turns your plant budget from a gamble into an investment. The plants live, they fill in. And in a couple of years, you have that established, look, everyone pays a fortune chasing. Now here is where it gets interesting, because you can have healthy plants, the right plants, perfectly placed, and still have a yard that reads cheap. And the reason why is the thing almost nobody is willing to tell you. Let me take you to the ground between the plants. Look down, the dirt, the mulch, the line where your lawn meets your bed. This is the part everybody skips because it is not glamorous. Nobody dreams about mulch, but I am telling you, as the guy who has watched 1,000 buyers scan a yard, this is where the expensive or cheap verdict quietly gets sealed. Here is what happens in the buyer's eye. They cannot consciously price your plants. They do not know a boxwood from a barberry, but they can instantly read whether the picture is finished or unfinished. And a crisp, clean edge between the lawn and the bed is the single strongest signal of finished there is. A defined edge cut with a spade or an edger, with fresh mulch sitting slightly below the grass line, framing the plants like a picture frame around art. Now compare that to the yard where the mulch just fades into the grass with no edge, where the grass is creeping into the bed and the mulch is that faded gray from 2 seasons ago. Same plants, same house, but one reads cared for and one reads let go. The plants did not change, the frame did. And here is the part that will make you a little angry. A fresh, defined edge and new mulch is one of the cheapest upgrades in the entire yard. Mulch runs a few dollars a bag, or a few dozen dollars for a bulk load delivered. The edge costs nothing but a sharp tool and an afternoon, yet it moves the verdict more than plants that cost 10 times as much. I learned this the hard way early in my career. I had a client who wanted to spend big money adding new plants to sell faster. I told him to hold off. We spent one Saturday cutting clean edges on every bed he already had and laying fresh dark mulch. That was it. His agent called me 2 days later, stunned, and said the house suddenly photographed like a different property. Same plants, we just built the frame. So why does nobody push this on you? Because there is no markup in telling you to cut an edge and buy $9 of mulch. There is no upsell in an afternoon of your own labor. The money in this industry is in selling you plants, hardscape, and installs. Nobody makes a commission telling you the cheapest fix is the most powerful one, so you never hear it and you keep reaching for the expensive stuff that moves the needle less. That is the pattern I want you to start seeing. The advice you get is shaped by who profits from it, and the highest return moves in your yard are almost always the ones nobody is selling. And that low-grade guilt is exactly what I want to help you get ahead of, which is why I want to take a 60-second pause right here. Everything we have walked through, the foundation, the dying plants, the mulch, the frame, I have pulled all of it together, plus a complete planting system inside a digital guide called the Yard System. It is part of a series I put together under the names First Look and Yard Elevated, and the whole package is $97. If you have ever walked away from a garden center with a cart full of expensive mistakes, this is the resource that stops that from happening again. It gives you the exact selection framework, the zone matching process, and the repetition blueprint we are about to get into, laid out step by step so you can take it with you the next time you walk into that store. You can find the link in the description over at curbappealinsider.com. Take a look when this video is done. Now, with that in your back pocket, let's keep walking, because there is a whole category of plant buying built around your blind spots, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Come with me to the part of the garden center they designed to separate you from your money. The front table, the flowering annuals, screaming with color, priced to fly off the shelf. I love flowers. Let me say that first, before you think I am the guy who hates joy. But I need you to understand what color actually does and does not do for your verdict, because the store is counting on you getting this wrong. Bright annuals give you a hit of instant color. That is real. A pot of blooms by the door does lift a first impression. But annuals are, by definition, temporary. They die at the end of the season. So if your entire curb appeal strategy is a cart full of flowering annuals, you have built a picture that falls apart in a few months, and you get to buy it again next year and the year after that forever. The store loves that. Repeat purchases every single season, priced low enough that you never flinch. It feels like you are gardening. Really, you are renting color. Here is what the buyer's eye actually rewards, and this is the shift that separates people who spend smart from people who spend forever. Structure over color. The bones of the yard, evergreen shrubs that hold their shape and color all 12 months of the year. Plants that look intentional in January, not just July. Color is the accent. Structure is the verdict. Think about it from the buyer's side. Most homes sell after being seen in seasons that are not peak bloom, fall, winter, early spring. If your whole yard depends on annuals that are dead by then, the buyer sees bare beds and brown stems. But if your yard is built on evergreen structure with clean edges, it looks composed in any month, and the flowers are just a bonus when they show up. So spend your money on the permanent things first. A few well-chosen evergreens that stay the right size, get the structure right. Then, and only then, add a small, cheap layer of seasonal color right where it counts, at the door and along the main path. You will spend less over 5 years and read as more expensive every single day of them. Now, I know exactly what some of you are thinking right about now. You are thinking, this is all fine for somebody trying to sell, but I am not going anywhere. I just want to enjoy my yard. Why do I care what an imaginary buyer thinks? Stay right here with me, because this next part is built specifically for you, the person who is staying. This might be the most important stop of the whole walk for you, and here is why. The verdict is not just for buyers. It is the thing you feel every single time you pull into your own driveway, whether you notice it consciously or not. That little lift or that little sink in your chest when you come home. When your yard reads finished and cared for, you feel it. You relax a half second sooner. You are proud to have people over. When it reads tired and overgrown, that low grade, I should really deal with that, hum follows you inside and never fully shuts off. And there is a real measurable payoff to enjoying your own place well on top of the feeling. Because a yard built on the right structure, the right plants in the right spots, and clean edges is not just prettier, it is dramatically less work. The dwarf shrubs do not need constant hacking back. The climate-matched plants do not die and need replacing. The clean edge takes 10 minutes to touch up instead of a full weekend to rescue. You are buying yourself free time and killing that nagging guilt. So here is the one fix that serves both of you at once, the seller and the stayer, and it costs almost nothing and needs no contractor. Pick the single view you see most, the one from your driveway or your front door or your kitchen window, and make just that one sightline perfect. Clean the edge, refresh the mulch. Prune the 2 or 3 plants in that frame, pull the tired stuff. You are not redoing the yard. You are perfecting one picture. If you are staying, that is the view that greets you every day, and now it lifts you instead of nagging you. If you are selling, that is almost certainly the exact frame that ends up in the listing photo and in the buyer's first 7 seconds. One afternoon. Same fix. Both of you win. That is the kind of move nobody sells you because there is nothing in it for them and everything in it for you. Now, you have been patient and you have earned the stop. I have been holding back this whole walk Because everything I have shown you so far, the foundation, the dying plants, the mulch, the color, all of it matters, but there is one detail that decides the verdict more than any of them. And it is the one thing almost every homeowner gets wrong at the garden center, and almost nobody can explain why. Come stand with me right here and look at your beds one more time. I am not looking at whether your plants are healthy now. I am looking at how many different kinds you have. Here is the secret, and once you see it, you will never shop the same way again. The single biggest thing that separates a yard that reads expensive from a yard that reads cheap is not the price of the plants. It is repetition. Let me explain what I mean, because this is the thing designers and high-end landscapers know in their bones and rarely say out loud to a homeowner. When you walk into a garden center, everything is designed to make you buy one of this, one of that, one of the pretty thing over there. You end up with a cart full of singles, 10 different plants, one of each. You bring them home, you spread them around, and you think you have created variety, abundance, a rich, full garden. What you have actually created is chaos. The eye does not read it as rich. It reads it as a jumble. As a collection of random single plants with no plan, and the brain files that, under cheap and unplanned, no matter how much each individual plant costs you, it is the horticultural version of a room where every piece of furniture came from a different decade. Now here is the flip. Take that same money, instead of 10 different plants, buy 3 of one kind, 3 of another, 3 of a third. Plant them in groups, masses. The same plant repeated, drifting through the bed. Suddenly the eye relaxes. It reads rhythm. It reads intention. It reads a design space that somebody paid a professional to lay out, even though you spent the exact same amount and possibly less, because buying multiples of fewer varieties is often cheaper. Repetition is the signal of money. That is the whole secret. High-end properties, the ones that make you go wow as you drive past, almost never have a huge variety of plants. They have a small number of plants, repeated with confidence, in generous groups. Cheap-looking yards have one of everything. Expensive-looking yards have a lot of a few things. I did not learn this in a classroom. I learned it standing in a client's yard years ago next to a designer I was doing install work for. He looked at a bed I thought was beautiful and full, and he said, "This is why it looks cheap." You have 12 conversations happening and no one is listening to anyone. Then he had me pull half of it, buy multiples of what was left, and plant them in groups of 3 and 5. Same plants I already had, same budget, plus a little. When we stepped back, it looked like a completely different, far more expensive property. Nothing rare got added. We just stopped the chaos and started the rhythm. And there is a reason nobody points this out to you at the register. The store makes more and moves more inventory when you buy one of everything and wander the whole floor filling a cart with singles. Buy 3 of the same thing and skip the rest of the store is a terrible sales pitch for them and a fantastic strategy for you. So the whole shopping experience is quietly built to push you toward the exact pattern that makes your yard read cheap. There is one more layer to this, and it is what ties the whole walk together. When you repeat plants, group them and lean on odd numbers, 3s and 5s instead of 2s and 4s. The groupings look natural to the eye instead of stiff. Odd numbers read as organic, even numbers read as forced. It sounds like a tiny thing. It is the difference between a bed that looks like a designer touched it and one that looks like a kid lined up toy soldiers. Put it all together, and here is what the research backs up. Studies out of places like the horticulture program at Virginia Tech have found that a home with thoughtful, well-designed landscaping can be perceived as worth up to roughly 12% more than the same home with poor or basic landscaping. Not 12% prettier, 12% more valuable in the buyer's mind before they set foot inside. On a $400,000 home, that perception gap is close to $50,000. And the difference between well-designed and basic is very often not money. It is repetition, structure, and a clean edge. The exact things that cost the least and get sold the least. The National Association of Realtors has reported for years that basic lawn and landscape care returns a huge share of its cost at resale, sometimes effectively all of it, which is a return you almost never see on kitchens or bathrooms. Yet homeowners pour tens of thousands into interior remodels and treat the yard like an afterthought, buying random single plants under the misters on a Saturday whim. The highest return square footage on most properties is the front yard, and it is the part people plan the least. So let me pull it all back together, standing right here where we started, at the end of your driveway, looking back at your house. The plants you were about to buy this weekend were going to tell a story about you, whether you meant them to or not. Now you get to choose the story. You know that overgrown foundation shrubs make the house read old and dark, and dwarf replacements take 10 years off it. You know, a dying plant is worse than bare dirt, and that matching the plant to your zone and your light is free and decisive. You know, the clean edge and fresh mulch is the cheapest, most powerful frame you can build. You know, structure beats color, and that annuals are rented, not owned. And now you know the real secret, the one that flips the whole verdict. Stop buying one of everything. Buy a few things, repeated, in groups, in odd numbers. That is what money looks like from the curb. Here is what I want you to feel as you look at your house right now. Not shame. Clarity. For the first time, you are seeing your own curb the way the buyer in the car sees it, the way the appraiser sees it, the way your sharp-eyed neighbor has been quietly seeing it for years. That is a gift most homeowners never get, because most people would rather be flattered than told the truth. You are not most people. You clicked on this because you would rather know the blunt verdict than be lied to and lose $50,000 to a blind spot you could have fixed in a weekend. So tell me something right now in the comments. Which stop on this walk hit you the hardest? Is it the foundation shrubs swallowing your windows? The dying plant you have been babying since spring? Or is it the one of everything cart, the chaos you did not know had a name until 3 minutes ago? Tell me which one you are going to fix first. And tell me where you are watching from, because I genuinely like knowing whose curb I am standing on. Drop it in the comments. I read them. If seeing your property through a buyer's eyes changed something for you today, then you belong with the homeowners who follow along here. This is not about supporting a channel. It is about learning to walk your own curb the way the people judging it do, so nobody ever gets to quietly knock money off your home again. Subscribe and stand with us, because next time, I am walking you to the one spot most people never even think of as landscaping, the strip between your driveway and your neighbors, the no man's land that buyers read as a straight-up character reference for who you are. It is costing more of you more than you think, and I am going to show you exactly why. I will see you at that curb. Stay with me one more second. Inside my membership, the Curb Appeal Circle, I hand you the full planting plan, the deeper walkthrough that picks up right where this video stops. When you get stuck, you ask me your own question, and a real person answers you, not a machine. You'd be joining thousands of homeowners like you. Just point your phone camera at the code on the screen, and you can cancel anytime with one click. Now that you know what to buy, let me show you what to avoid. There are some common garden features that quietly make your whole yard look cheap. That one's starting right here, so stay with me.